Now, Newman was no advocate for universities that try to mimic seminaries, focused on preparing students primarily for religious ministry. He was no more in support of that than he supported universities that were reduced to career factories. The university, he argued, is a place of teaching universal knowledge. This implies that its object is intellectual, not moral. And this has misled many scholars to claim that Newman, in fact, champions a sort of liberal arts education that could fit a secular university as well as a Catholic university. But in fact, Newman insisted that while the university's primary purpose is intellectual and serves all humanity, the church and its theology are integral to the university. This is explained by understanding his meaning of universal knowledge. Newman simply meant that while there are many branches of knowledge, each with its own methods of attaining knowledge by observation, scientific method, intuition, and revelation, none alone offers a complete understanding of truth. In so saying, he refers to theology as well, which has importance in relation to every other discipline because it is the science of God, by whom all things are made and have meaning. But it offers knowledge only of divine revelation, not what we observe and feel according to human experience. Newman believed that the real contribution of the university is to bring together scholars of a wide variety of disciplines so that students can be taught to reflect upon every task or question that is posed to mankind by drawing upon every sort of knowledge and not becoming less human by limiting oneself to the scientific perspective or perhaps the popular perspective of the age. At a Catholic university, this is accomplished while embracing the insights of revelation. Newman wrote that graduates must be trained, quote, to the use of the gifts of nature in the sunlight of divine grace and revealed truth. Or, as Pope John Paul II explained it in the Apostolic Constitution Ex Corde Ecclesiae, Catholicism is vitally present and operative in the university. The second argument, that the fact of secular or even the Catholic university's allowance for the study of religion and divine revelation comes closer but still does not by itself fulfill Newman's definition of a university. According to Newman, not only should the university include Catholic theology, but theology should be allowed to dialogue with other disciplines, which in turn should draw upon theology's insights and ethical implications. If theology is to be free of exclusion, it must be appreciated for its contributions and relevancy to other disciplines. Indeed, a relevancy that is much broader than most other disciplines. He wrote, quote, "Admit a God, and you introduce among the subjects of your knowledge a fact encompassing and closing upon, absorbing every other fact conceivable." The intersection of religious knowledge with other disciplines may be overt, as in discussions of ethics in medicine, law, or business, but it can also be subtle, such as a discussion about good works of literature. Newman discusses one such example. He wrote, "Obscurities of thought, difficulties in philosophy, perplexities of faith are confidentially brought out, sifted, and solved in a discussion of good books. And a pagan poet or theorist may thus become the occasion of Christian advancement." In addition to the positive contributions of theology and dialogue with other disciplines, a properly understood academic freedom permits theology to help prevent extreme and unfounded claims by other disciplines, because a proper understanding of academic freedom allows for research and study and teaching within disciplines according to the methods of those disciplines, but does not allow for reaching outside of those disciplines. He wrote, quote, "This exorbitance is sure to take place almost from necessity of the case if theology be not present to defend its own boundaries and to hinder the encroachment. The human mind cannot keep from speculating and systematizing. And if theology is not allowed to occupy its own territory, adjacent sciences, nay, sciences which were quite foreign to theology, will take possession of it. And we see that constantly today, especially in the realm of medicine. In his discourse, A Form of Infidelity of the Dead, Newman warns that the enemies of faith would be wise to give theology its place in the university, just as we have today in most Catholic universities, but then to marginalize and simply ignore it. I'll read a long passage here that I think is rather interesting, where he explains the strategy that the enemies of the faith should undertake. He says, should they profess themselves the antagonists of theology and engage in argumentative exercises with theologians? Nothing, they will say to themselves, do religious men desire more. Nothing would so surely advance the cause of religion as controversy. Turning then to the universities of England, they will pronounce that the true policy to be observed there would be simply to let the schools of theology alone. Not to interfere with theology, not to raise a little finger against it, is the only means of superseding it. Leave its teachers to themselves. Merely aim at the introduction of other studies, which, while they have the accidental charm of a novelty, possess a surpassing interest, richness, and practical value of their own. Get possession of these studies and appropriate them, monopolize the use of them, to the exclusion of the other votaries of religion. Take it for granted and protest for the future that religion has nothing to do with the studies to which I am alluding, nor those studies with religion. Exclaim and cry out if the Catholic Church presumes herself to handle what you mean to use as a weapon against her. Prophetic, isn't it? This is not at all unlike the treatment of faithful Catholic theology in many of our contemporary Catholic universities, such that it may be tolerated but not celebrated, and provokes not dialogue but embarrassment that such a thing would exist at a serious university. Another point about the insufficiency of simply permitting the presence of a theology chair or department. A Catholic university's integrity also depends on accepting the authority of the Church's magisterium with regard to faith, morals, and the university's Catholic identity. In the 1967 Land O'Lakes Statement, American Catholic university leaders declared independence from, quote, authority of whatever kind, lay or clerical. Although the intent was not to diminish the university's Catholic identity, the divorce from the bishops meant that there was no oversight to ensure fidelity in theological instruction and consistency in university policies and programs. And today, the Land O'Lakes Statement is known as the watershed moment that launched the rapid secularization of most Catholic colleges and universities in the United States. Again, Newman is prophetic. He writes, I say then, that even though the case could be so, that the whole system of Catholicism was recognized and professed without the direct presence of the Church, still this would not at once make such a university a Catholic institution, nor be sufficient to secure the due weight of religious considerations in its philosophical studies. For it may easily happen that a particular bias or drift may characterize an institution, which no rules can reach, nor officers remedy, nor professions or promises counteract. As much as Newman values knowledge for its own sake, he also realizes the dangers inherent in the reliance on partial knowledge. And in fact, we can grow in our knowledge of God, but never have the fullness of truth in this world. Which is why the involvement of the Church in the university is necessary to maintain its integrity and to prevent theological error.